Lights, camera, action.
Hey guys,
Hey everyone.
welcome back to the podcast. I'm Jon,
I'm Emily.
and this is Married to Movies, and we hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas with your families and a happy New Year.
Yes.
We did forget to mention in our last episode that we were going to take the next 2 weeks off to spend time with family and just enjoy a little bit of relaxation without having to worry about the show at all. So we appreciate your graciousness, and we hope that you guys had a great time. But we are back, and we are ready to dig into Knives Out,
Yes.
a new twist on the classic whodunit. And I think, Em, do you just want to take us away?
Sure. All right. So Knives Out was released on November 27th of 2019. It was directed by Rian Johnson, and it is starring Ana de Armas, I think is how you say her name, Daniel Craig, Chris Evans, Christopher Plummer, Catherine Langford, Toni Collette, Michael Shannon, Lakeith Stanfield, Jamie Lee Curtis, Don Johnson, and Ricky Landholm. It's distributed by Lionsgate Films. It has a runtime of 2 hours and 10 minutes. It's rated PG-13 with a budget of $40 million and box office total of $312 million.
What year did you say this was released?
2019.
Okay. I don't know why I was thinking it was much sooner than that, but...
Like more recent? Is that what you're saying?
No, I guess older.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know why I chose the word sooner, but
Yeah.
I don't know why, but for some reason I was thinking that it came out earlier than that. But anyways.
Yeah, it's a newer movie. So I kind of struggled to find a decent amount of fun facts on this. I found some, but not as many as I usually have. So I'll just go ahead and start. But the first one is that the title of this movie comes from the 2001 Radiohead song Knives Out.
Yes.
The phrase just stuck in Rian Johnson's head as a good murder mystery title. So that's where it came from.
Yeah, which honestly, is really, really cool.
Yeah.
A really awesome way to come up with a name for a movie. And, I mean, truly, Knives Out is a great name for a murder mystery movie or book, as well as a song. That's a pretty cool name, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a great band name, too. It's just a great phrase, great turn of words.
Mm-hmm. My next fact is that the actress who plays Harlan's mother, or Great Nana, or however they say it.
Is it? Yeah, it's Nana
Thrombey.
Thrombey. Yeah, Nana Thrombey.
She is actually 6 years younger than the actor who played Harlan Thrombey in real life.
No kidding.
Yes.
She's younger than Christopher Plummer.
Yes.
Which, I mean, honestly, that guy is ancient, but he's a wonderful actor, so it doesn't necessarily surprise me. But that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. So this is probably one of the more popular little snippets of dialogue in the movie when Daniel Craig, or I guess, how do you say his character's name?
Benoit Blanc.
Yes. When he's comparing the mystery to a donut, that little bit of dialogue.
Yes, he's talking about the donut hole. And
Yeah.
Yes.
So the director actually wasn't really sure that it would work and planned on cutting it, but Daniel Craig convinced him to just let him give it a shot. And after seeing Daniel Craig do the speech, Rian Johnson agreed that he should keep it in.
That's hilarious. Which, honestly, I don't know that I would say, oh man, that scene sticks out in my mind, but it gives the movie a lot of heart.
Right.
And it kind of fleshes out Benoit Blanc's character a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And it's, I think, maybe even necessary, because you always have to, maybe not have to, but it's a good idea to kind of lighten things sometimes. Right. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily comedic relief, but maybe a little bit because of his delivery and his southern drawl and stuff like that. And it's just a really weird concept that's kind of convoluted. Mm-hmm. But yes, I thought that I'm glad they kept it in because it adds heart to the film and a little bit of levity in some heavy moments.
Yeah, for sure. My next fact is that the portrait on the wall of Harlan Thrombey was not finished in time for filming, so it had to be digitally entered in after the movie was shot.
Oh, really?
Yes. And also, Daniel Craig was cast as the detective after news leaked that filming on the new Bond movie was delayed.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
I'm trying to think which one that would have been.
Would it be No Time to Die?
It probably would have been No Time to Die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 more. First, Ryan Johnson's cousin. He had quite the group of his family members on this movie.
Oh, really?
So his cousin Nathan Johnson composed the score.
I did see that.
His cousin Mark Johnson created the title credits, and his cousin Zach Johnson painted the cast paintings for the end credits. So 3 of his cousins were working on this movie.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool.
And my last fact is that a third Knives Out movie called Wake Up a Dead Man is set to come out on Netflix in 2025.
Oh, really? Next year?
Next year?
I mean,
well,
I guess
year.
this year at the time of release. Wow. Interesting.
I didn't find a date on that, but it did say 2025.
Well, I'm excited for that. Hopefully it's a little bit of redemption. Glass Onion did not live up to Knives Out, and
I agree.
in my opinion. But we're not here to talk about that movie.
Correct.
So, anyways.
Well, that is all I got. Pretty short and sweet today.
Okay, cool. Well, I have a few highlights here, so I'm just going to kind of sift through them. So you said this movie came out in 2019, correct? Mm-hmm. Ryan Johnson actually conceived the idea for Knives Out after his very first feature film, which is called Brick. I've never seen it, have no idea if it's any good or not, but that movie released in 2005.
Oh,
so
wow.
About 15 years before Knives Out came out is when he actually conceived of the idea for it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I really thought that it was interesting. It makes a lot of sense, but Ryan Johnson said that he was very inspired by Agatha Christie's detective novels and the film adaptations of her novels for Knives Out, which if you're unfamiliar with Agatha Christie, you've probably heard of some of her works because they have been turned into popular movies, such as Death on the Nile, Murder on the Orient Express, Evil Under the Sun. Those are a handful of film adaptations of her whodunit movies that he was inspired by. Specifically, the old version, because there have been 2 film adaptations of Death on the Nile. There was one in 2022 and one back in, I think, maybe the 70s. That one is the one that he was inspired by, as well as Evil Under the Sun. And they were star-studded casts, which inspired him to have a star-studded cast in Knives Out, which the newer versions of those movies have also remained true to that, with Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile, the newer versions being very, very star-studded as well. But anyways, not to get too off topic here, Ryan Johnson was very excited to do Knives Out because many film studios had considered the whodunit genre outdated or even a dead genre. So he was excited to kind of modernize it and show that you can still do movies in that genre today and do it effectively. Which, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because we're kind of that age group where there haven't been a lot of whodunit movies. Maybe that's why I find them so interesting, but I think that mystery is intriguing to all people.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's maybe why the thriller genre or like the espionage genre or spy thriller movies in general do so well, because there is so much mystery and intrigue. I mean, obviously they're a little bit different, but that's at the root of it. Most of the time that's what they are.
Right.
It's just action and mystery. But anyways, Knives Out had been in the works for a long time, and so as I said, he had conceived of it in 2005. Ryan Johnson did. He planned to work on it after his 2012 movie Looper, and he had to shelf it because he was hired to direct Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Oh, I had that in my fun facts, and I must have skipped over it. Whoops.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah. Which I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time talking on The Last Jedi. I think it's going to come back up later at some point. But yes, Rian Johnson directed The Last Jedi, the highly controversial Star Wars movie. And then he followed The Last Jedi up with Knives Out, which is an undeniable banger. This movie is fantastic. So, anyways, the script writing for Knives Out did not take place until after he finished The Last Jedi, so he didn't begin working on it until 2018, and it only took him about 6 months to write the film.
Wow.
Yes.
That's impressive.
Yes. Okay, what do we have? I gotta sift through some of my notes here. I thought this was very interesting. When he was working with casting directors for the movie, he focused on actors who could balance exaggerated comedic performances with authenticity. And I thought that was a really interesting mindset to have, because when I think about it, it comes through perfectly in the film.
Yeah.
I think all the characters do extremely well in this regard, but like that almost feels like it's part of the film's identity. Like there are a lot of, as it says, exaggerated comedic performances, but it doesn't feel
cheesy.
Yes, it doesn't feel out of place. It doesn't feel cheesy, and like I'm not trying to knock on anybody or anything, but like, and this one hurts a little bit, but because I'm such a Marvel fan, and when I say Marvel fan, I'm not saying Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm saying I own a lot of Marvel comics. I am a true through and through Marvel fan. The MCU is a perfect example of too many moments where there's exaggerated comedic performances, and it is cheesy.
Right.
It doesn't, it's whatever, but this still feels authentic, and it feels like a part of the film's identity, and I appreciate that. So a perfect example of that is, like you were talking about, the Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc doing the donut hole thing. That whole thing is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It makes sense, but it also makes no sense. It's convoluted, it's silly, but like he delivers it in such an authentic way that like that type of stuff does happen in real life, and people do stick with like an analogy that makes no sense because of their commitment to the analogy. That happens all the time. So that's a perfect example. But then also you have like Chris Evans, who was cast specifically against his Marvel persona of Captain America, being kind of, the sentinel of liberty and undeniable good guy. He fights for what's right. They cast him as the villain very purposefully.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, so spoiler alert. If you haven't seen this movie by now, I don't feel sorry for spoiling that. So anyways, yes, they cast him as the villain very intentionally because, most people around the world have accepted him as Captain America.
Yeah.
And that he's an undeniable good guy in most roles that he plays, or at least his biggest role.
Right.
So anyways, I thought that was cool. But even outside of that, like Christopher Plummer, who is Harlan Thrombey, he has plenty of moments that are very dramatic, very serious, but when he's playing, is it Go? That's the name of it, right? Because
yeah, I think so.
When he's playing Go with Marta, and they're going up to his study or whatever it is, the night that the murder takes place, he's being like all silly and animated. He's like, I'm so old, making fun of himself to Marta. Like, that's so hilarious, but it's authentic. I love that. Or Don Johnson, like the guy who plays Richard Drysdale, he's a goofball. Most of his lines are ridiculous, but it feels authentic. It feels real. Chris Evans coming to the family meeting at the will reading just basically trashes everybody in a very disrespectful, unkind, and also very comedic way. It feels authentic. So I thought that was a very interesting key detail that stuck out to me in my research. So anyways, thought that was cool. Wanted to share it. Filming locations. Filming occurred in many Boston area mansions, with one Ames Mansion, serving as the primary location. There were also some custom sets built, such as Harlan Thrombey's office. That was built on a sound stage due to space limitations, but the primary filming location was at the Ames Mansion in Boston. The film was on a rapid 38-day shoot, including the pyrotechnics where they blew up the one bio lab, whatever that was.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's also included. So a very, very fast shooting schedule.
Yeah.
Just a little over a month. I really appreciate that the mansions were chosen for the reason of their preserved architectural elements, which they felt like enhanced the film's atmosphere. That's one of my favorite things about this film, is that it takes place in that mansion, which just feels like it has so much character.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's something that honestly, like, we built our house not quite 4 years ago, and we've been slowly working on improving it here and there and doing different things. Honestly, like, we're getting ready to redo our office and different parts of our houses, or our house, and a lot of the inspiration that I at least have in my mind is taken somewhat from the mansion in this movie. Really? It's just like, I just really like it. It feels like it has a lot of depth and character and atmosphere, I guess, as they said. It feels cool. Mm-hmm. Somewhere that I would want to hang out, but that's also cool. It's not just something that you can go to at anybody's house, I guess, if that makes sense. So, anyways, let me see if there's anything else that I thought was super interesting that I wanted to share. You talked about Nathan Johnson, so I'm going to skip that. I think, I'm going to go ahead and stop there. The only other note that I have that I'm going to touch on is that the script, as it was being written and refined, they were very intentional as they were working on it to balance homage to classic whodunit films while also subverting genre expectations. And I feel like that's a key point that I want to at least touch on, because that is very authentically Rian Johnson. It kind of feels like at this point that that's his MO, is that he just wants to subvert audience expectations. So you look at Glass Onion, you look at Knives Out, you look at The Last Jedi, and truthfully, those are probably all of the films that I've seen done by Rian Johnson.
Have I seen The Last Jedi?
I believe so.
Okay. The only other films that he's done, at least that I'm seeing, there's one that was done in 2012 called Looper.
I have actually seen that.
2008 called The Brothers Bloom, and 2005 called Brick.
Yep. So I have not seen Brick or The Brothers Bloom. I have seen Looper, as well as all the other ones we listed: The Last Jedi, Glass Onion, Knives Out. I don't know. So I guess I would say I probably have seen most of his filmography. It feels like audience subversion is specifically something that's authentically Rian Johnson, something that he makes it a mission to do in all of his films. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's probably a different discussion. But I will say that he does it here in Knives Out perfectly. It's executed exactly how it should be. So I guess I'll just go ahead and talk about it here. Look at The Last Jedi, which I know you don't really remember that well. But it's no secret that The Last Jedi was highly controversial. The sequel trilogy to Star Wars is it's pretty well hated amongst most fans.
The Last Jedi is?
The Last Jedi specifically, but the sequel trilogy as a whole.
Okay.
So there's a lot of problems with it, and I am a Star Wars fan, but I don't really want to get into the depths of all of that because it is muddy and it would take a lot of time, more time than we have here, and we're here to talk about Knives Out. But specifically, The Last Jedi was really, there was a lot of backlash to that movie. Very heavy backlash. maybe some of the worst backlash I've ever seen. And some of the Marvel backlash has been pretty intense. And the problem with it is that it felt like Rian Johnson's goal, I could be misspeaking here, but it felt like his goal, as he set out to do that movie, was to indeed subvert audience expectations. That it was just, well, this is what I'm going to do because this is what I do in my movies, and it's, I'm an auteur. It's my thing. Okay, whatever, that's fine. I am someone who's probably in the minority. Generally speaking, I don't have that many problems with The Last Jedi. I'm sure there's probably somebody out there listening who's screaming and can't believe that I just said that. I don't feel that that movie is as problematic as people made it out to be. I'm not saying that it's a great movie, but I'm not saying that it's also the worst thing that's ever came out ever, as many people have said. However, I do believe it is problematic to set out with the intention to subvert expectations just for the sake of doing it. However, you look at Knives Out, where he maybe didn't set out to just subvert expectations, but he utilized that in the work that he was doing, which it sounded like he kind of set out to just revitalize the whodunit genre, but he also subverted audience expectations, and it worked perfectly. Like it went in tandem, and I felt like this is a good example of him doing something as a tool rather than the point, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure I probably could have articulated that a little bit better, but I guess my main point is that The Last Jedi, and probably to a certain extent Glass Onion, it feels like the whole point and the big deal is that, like, oh, you didn't expect that. Boom, I'm an auteur. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Knives Out, it's like, yes, I subverted your expectations in a bunch of ways, but here's the overall movie, and it fits in here in this perfect way. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe I'm just kind of going in circles here, but anyways, I guess I kind of wanted to make a point there. Mm-hmm. But that's all I have.
Okay. Well, let's move on to our scores. How would you rank this movie?
How would you rank this movie?
I think I'm going to give this a 94.
Okay, 94. Very nice. That's a pretty strong score.
I really like this movie. I like kind of how you were talking earlier about just the balance between like subtle comedy, but also like I love the mystery aspect of it. And I really appreciate that it's like, it's not a mystery that like the first time I watched it, like I figured it out before it revealed itself, or it was revealed. 'Cause that just ruins it for me.
Yes.
I love the twist, and yeah, I mean, I love the acting is great. I love most of the actors that were cast for their roles. Yeah, it's a very good movie.
Yeah, I would agree. I would, I don't know, anything from a 94 to a 96 is what I would give this.
Okay.
It's a super solid movie. It's a super fun movie. It's engaging. It's a mystery. And let me just say, so this movie came out in 2019. I did not see this film until, I think, 2023. It was either 22 or 23, but I'm pretty sure it was 23. Mm-hmm. We watched it for the first time last year, I believe. And
2 years ago now.
Yes. And the villain, which was one of the big twists in this film, one of the quote unquote like a subverted expectation. One of the big twists is that Chris Evans was the killer. Mm-hmm. And his character is such that like it's even built in the film that you don't expect him to be the killer.
Right.
Because he's helping out Marta. Mm-hmm. And, it makes sense when you know the full story. Mm-hmm. But as the film's playing out, you're seeing it for the first time. He's, made to be somebody who you don't believe is the killer. But even more than that, the expectation that he's a villain is subverted or maybe not the villain, is subverted because he played Captain America. It's just kind of, it's ingrained in who he is. Going into seeing the film for the first time, I knew that he was the killer. That was spoiled for me long before I saw the movie. Mm-hmm. And I was still surprised, like still engaged, still enjoyed it, still had no like, oh man, I really wish I would have been able to experience that twist for the first time. Like, it's that good. Right. And I think that's maybe on the point that I was trying to make earlier, when the whole identity of the film is subverting the audience expectation, it kind of falls flat. Mm-hmm. And like, if the whole film hinges on this whole thing of like, oh, well, haha, I subverted your expectations because you assume that this is supposed to happen in this genre or whatever. Like, nobody cares. But when you do a good film and you make a good story that's engaging and it's fun for the audience to be a part of, or, they get invested in it so that they're scared when the character in the movie is scared, or they're excited when they're excited, they're suspended, they're in suspense. Like, there's any number of things. When you're able to engage the audience and connect with them in that way, and I already knew that he was the villain, so that expectation wasn't able to be subverted, and I still liked it and still like thought like, wow, that was so good, and I can't believe that that's how it all played out and all this stuff. Like, that's how you know it's a good movie. Mm-hmm. And that's how that, I guess, filmmaking tool should be utilized. That it shouldn't be the film's identity, but rather a tool to enhance your narrative, not hinge the narrative on that thing itself. Yeah. So, anyways, yes, this is a super strong film. I really enjoyed it. I thought all the acting was super good. It was very fun to watch because it's not overly dramatic. It is, all the drama is balanced well with authentic yet exaggerated comedy. The cast is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Christopher Plummer is great, and his character isn't even in the movie that much. Right. But also, I mean, Daniel Craig's fantastic. Ana de Armas is fantastic. Chris Evans, Catherine Langford, Michael Shannon, always fantastic. Lakeith Stanfield, I really enjoyed him. He was the lieutenant that was working with Benoit Blanc. Right. Mm-hmm. He was great. Mm-hmm. And he was a very, very minor role. Like, I loved him. Don Johnson, Jamie Lee Curtis, just the whole cast was fantastic. Even some of the small roles like Fran, Eddie Patterson, she was great. So anyways, I really, really loved the casting, really loved the acting. One thing that I guess we don't really talk about a lot. Oh, I guess real quick before I go here, the filming location. I mean, I already touched on that. I love, mm-hmm. The mansion and everything. But even outside of that, like when they go downtown and they're out in the woods and stuff like that, like they're very beautiful places. Mm-hmm. Locations were top notch. But something that I don't know if we've ever touched on this in any of our film discussions, but color grading. So, obviously when you take a picture, even if it's on your cell phone, and you go, like, let's say you're a teenage girl, you take a picture, you go to post it on Instagram, what's one of the first things you look through before you post it? It's going to be filters, right? Which is not exactly color grading, but kind of. You're changing the image, right? Mm-hmm. That's part of the editing process for filmmakers. They're going to color grade the film to look a certain way, to either bring out certain colors based on emotions that the audience should feel in a certain scene, or there's a lot of other reasons as well. But that's just one example of something that happens in the editing process, where they're going to take the shot and they're going to enhance the colors to look a specific way. I thought the color grading in this film was just really, really excellent. Mm-hmm. Very like warm and... Yes, exactly. It was very warm. And that's what I love about it. And maybe that goes back to some of like kind of my desires for what I want our home to look like long term, is just I've often said, like when we've picked out like light bulbs and stuff like that I want it to feel warm. Mm-hmm. Because it's endearing. I guess. And I thought the color grading was very well done. It really brought me into the movie, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
Okay, so I've kind of been rambling here a little bit. I'd like to hear about some of your favorite scenes or things that you really liked in the movie, or maybe disliked, or that were like that you didn't expect but jumped out to you, or I just want to hear your thoughts.
I don't really think I have anything that I disliked. The only thing that kind of like, I don't want to say annoyed me. I don't know the right word, but when what's the building called that got burnt down? What kind of building was that?
Yeah, it was like
Some kind of like
medical lab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when like after that building has been burnt down and the detectives are there, like, just trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
I don't like that Marta and Ransom went and drove up to it and just sat there and
Yes.
like had a conversation in their car right in front of it. Like, that's dumb. Like,
yeah,
if you are a suspect in a murder, why would you go to like a really huge piece of evidence while the detectives are there actively looking and working,
Right.
drive up to it and just sit there.
Just sit there.
And then
Yes.
when they notice you, peel out and
Yeah.
speed away.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, how dumb? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the one, I think, probably the only issue I had with this movie is that
Yeah.
didn't feel super realistic to me.
Yeah, that's one of those things that, like, if you, like, obviously everybody's a suspect in that type of situation, but if you didn't appear, like, as a prime
Suspicious.
suspect or guilty, you certainly do when the detective is trying to flag you down and you just peel out.
Yeah.
You make eye contact with him. He knows he saw you.
Yeah.
And you leave. Like, that's highly suspicious.
Right.
And then you run into each other on the highway and he's like in the window across from you saying, pull over. Like, hey, and you don't.
Yeah.
Like, those are a bunch of red flags.
Right.
You're kind of incriminating yourself. And,
Right.
to be fair, Marta was in a position where she was spiraling. She knew that what she did wasn't intentional. And then you have Ransom in her ear basically, I guess I would say making things worse. Like, he's trying to help, but he's also in the background.
He's also not trying to help.
He's not
because,
trying to help. And then you have the whole Thromby family being crazy because Marta is the one who was given everything in the will. And, like, her life is kind of spiraling out of control. So I do get that, people do act irrationally in those situations. It's just one of those things as an audience where it's like, what?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't ever do that.
Right.
Anyways, yeah.
Yeah. But moving on to positives. I know he's the villain, but I love Ransom. Like,
Yep.
I don't know. Chris Evans played him very well. And
Yes.
I especially like, I don't know. I like how we're not really introduced much to him at the beginning, except we just know he's like a turd basically.
Yes.
And, like knowing that and then like seeing how he like goes off on the whole family. And then, like after, I think this is, after the will is read and Marta's trying to escape basically. And he like flags her down, tells her to come over to his car.
Yes.
Like I like that whole sequence, I guess, just,
Yes.
because it like makes the audience, I guess, or at least me, like kind of struggle with, okay, what should I be thinking about this guy,
Right.
So I like when movies do that, like make you kind of second guess your feelings toward a character or toward a plot line or whatever.
Right.
I also really like when the will is read. Just, the shock and the I don't know, just the wondering, okay, what is going to happen with this after.
Yeah.
And I also like the fact that, like, we know that Marta, well, we don't know this, but we think we know that Marta is the reason he's dead. But that she is, like, helping, I guess, with the whole investigation.
You're right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I like the relationship between her and Blanc, and just like how he's using her, you know, at the beginning. Like, he knows that she gets sick when she lies.
Right.
And he basically explicitly says that, you know, like, well, I know that you can't lie, so I'm gonna ask you a few questions or whatever.
Yes.
And I just, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but I like the relationship between them as the movie goes on. And yeah, my mind is like scrambled right now, but
No, you're fine.
I'm struggling to form thoughts. But yeah, I think that's all that I wanted to mention for now.
Yeah, I really like her relationship with Benoit. Just the idea of having like a visceral reaction to lying and that she pukes, like that makes for a very interesting, I guess, character. Mm-hmm. But also it's utilized as a plot point. Mm-hmm. And that's super cool. You know, and it plays out in more than one way during the film. One of the cool instances is when Ransom forces her to basically eat all that food at the restaurant.
Yeah.
You know, because he keeps telling her, like, you know, eat, you need to eat. And then he just like puts her on the spot point blank, and she gets so angry at him because that's so unfair and unkind, and he's doing it like vindictively. And yeah, I thought that was really cool and interesting. And yeah, like you said, I mean, it is interesting that his Benoit's relationship with Marta first starts by basically saying, like, hey, I just want to see if this is actually true. I heard a rumor that this is the case. It is true, so now I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. I mean, he would be a dumb detective to not do that.
Right.
If you know that somebody is going to puke when they lie, like, that's kind of a dream if it were only that easy for everybody. Like, so I get it, but it is cool to see their relationship continue to develop as they go. Mm-hmm. One of the things that was kind of on my mind was that I really like Benoit Blanc's introduction in the film.
Yes, when he's like just hitting the one piano key.
Yes, it's very interesting. Not because like I don't think it plays out in any like huge way by any means, but it was cool. Mm-hmm. Like to be introduced to the character for the first time, mind you, like these were not based on books, so there's not like this rich history or any sort of expectation that we should have going into it that this guy is the world's greatest detective for all these reasons or anything like that. But we're kind of thrust into the film and we watch it, and Lieutenant whatever his name was, I can't remember his name. The guy,
Lakeith's character.
Yeah, Lakeith Stanfield, his character. So the lieutenant is the one asking all the questions. And then you have in the background, you can't even really see him super well. Like you can see him, but he's not the primary focal point of the shot. And you have Benoit Blanc just occasionally hitting a single piano key during conversation. And you can see like the lieutenant, like he'll be like, oh yes, and like ask a different question or redirect the conversation, ask the question again or something like that. Or if like somebody says something interesting, like one of the suspects says something interesting in the interrogation, he'll like hit a note. It's just a really cool way to be introduced to the character. Mm-hmm. It really makes you wonder, like, okay, who is this guy? What's going on? Why are you doing that? Which is exactly what the suspects are feeling as they're being interrogated too. So I thought that was really cool, really clever. And then you kind of get to find out who he is through, I believe it was Jamie Lee Curtis's character being like, I know who you are and blah, 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 whatever. So I thought that was a really fun, creative way to be introduced to a new character, but also add depth to their character and not just be one of those things where it's like the audience is being told like, hey, I'm the world's greatest detective. You just have to accept it and go with it. Like they took time to invest in and give the character himself some intrigue and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I appreciated that. Kind of as you touched on earlier, I do like Ransom as a character. I think Chris Evans probably just has an undeniable, likable quality about him.
Yeah.
Even in a movie like where he's being a jerk a lot of the time, mm-hmm. but like it's like he's acting very well. He's a good actor, but he's just fun to watch, and also like it's interesting to see how things play out between him and Marta, and that he does kind of come to the rescue for Marta when the family's going crazy after the will reading, or like he's the only other person other than Marta who's beat Harlan in Go, mm-hmm. and stuff like that. Like, and that Harlan is like so insistent that that boy is too much like me, and you know,
right.
like he just is a very interesting character in a cast full of interesting characters. Mm-hmm. So I, you know, kudos to Chris Evans and the writers on that one, because they made even an unlikable character likable.
Yeah, a lot. He started a trend with his sweater, his white sweater that he wears in the restaurant. Like tons of people after this movie was released, like went out and bought a white sweater.
Yeah, it is it's a good looking sweater.
It is.
I would absolutely wear that sweater. Although I'm kind of in my sweater era right now myself, so
it's true.
There's a lot of sweaters I would wear. But anyways, yes, he did. He looked very suave, and I enjoyed that. But yeah, I'm trying to think of other things that stick out to me or that I really enjoyed. I did like the whole sequence where Benoit and Marta are kind of walking the grounds, I guess, as they're finding clues and whatnot.
Yes, I agree. I like when she sees her own footprints, and so she starts walking over them, and he's like, stop, and yeah. She's like, what did you say?
And like
and keeps
closer.
Walking over.
Yeah, like she plays dumb very well, and it's endearing. Mm-hmm. You know, like you can't be mad at her, and like Benoit's not even mad at her. Oh, forget it. Mm-hmm. You know, like it's not a big deal, but like she has the dogs run through the mud intentionally, and then she walks over it, so it's like really, really lost. And yeah, I thought that was really clever, really quick thinking on her feet. She steals the tape of the cameras, and she runs the magnets over it to mess it up, and you know, just a bunch of little things here and there. But I thought that whole sequence was really cool. Especially, I liked when she reveals the trick window to Benoit. Mm-hmm. That was just cool to watch. It's like, oh man, this house is even more interesting. Like they have a trick window. So yeah, that was very cool. I really enjoyed all of that. And I guess that kind of contributes to Benoit and Marta's relationship, right? Because all of those sequences maybe weren't necessarily investing in their relationship directly, but rather indirectly. And it makes it more believable, I guess. I don't know. Like it enhances the relationship. It makes it better. Just all those small moments, because that's how it is in real life too, right?
Yeah.
Like you become better friends with somebody based on the amount of time you spend with them. Mm-hmm. So some of that time spent sometimes is, you know, you're not really doing much. You're not talking. You're not having like these deep heart to hearts. You're just experiencing life together.
Yeah.
So anyways, I thought that was cool. I don't know. There's a lot that I like about the movie. I thought it was a scene that was interesting, that sticks out in my mind is, when Michael Shannon's character, what is his name? Walt Thromby. When he shows up at Martha's house after the will reading, basically the next day, that is a scene that is so like layered and complex and done so well, because at first, like when it starts, you're kind of like, oh man, Walt is like, he's gone out of his way to really be kind to Marta. Like, this is good. And then as the conversation continues, you're like, oh no, like
He's basically threatening her.
Yeah, he's blackmailing her. Like, he is here under bad intentions. And then, you know, you're kind of, as Marta is experiencing it, you're also experiencing it. And, you know, I'll be fine. I can do whatever. And I don't know. It's done so well. I think it really adds to Marta's character, how she's so clever and quick thinking on her feet. That's something I was going to say earlier too about covering up the prince and doing it as if she couldn't hear Benoit. She's just very quick on her feet. Yeah. She's very clever, which is probably why Harlan liked her so much, because he was a mystery novel writer. So she's an interesting character who's, you know, quick-witted and clever. But anyways, what the original point I was making was that as her and Walt are talking, she's kind of digging in the conversation as he's kind of pseudo-threatening her. She's gathering information, and he's basically saying, yes, you know, like, do this the right way, and we can make sure with the right lawyers that you're protected and your mother never gets deported and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, after she gets all the info that she needs from him, she basically says, okay, so with my money that Harlan's left me, I will do that. With my resources from Harlan, I will make sure that we're all protected because I can use those lawyers. And it basically leaves Walt speechless and whatever. But just super, super clever. And I thought that is just really cool. I really enjoyed that about her. But I could probably keep digging and digging on probably every scene of this film, but I've been talking a lot. Is there other stuff that sticks out to you as we've been talking, or that you want to comment on?
No, I think you covered everything else that I was thinking of.
Okay. Well, I won't keep going then, I guess, because I probably could just keep digesting all of this. I don't know. Okay, indulge me a little bit. I'm gonna keep going.
Okay.
The night that Harlan dies. So Marta accidentally gives him the wrong dosages of the medicine, and then it actually turns out, we find out that she didn't. That Ransom switched the labels on the bottles and took out the rescue dosage of the reversal drug, and so on and so forth. And so, anyways, she believes that she basically just gave a lethal dose of morphine to Harlan. And so he's like, okay, well, you know, if this is all true, then I'm going to die. And here's what we're going to do. And gives her all this stuff, all this info of this is what you got to do. This is how you got to do it to get you out of here safely, and da-da-da-da-da. And then he ends up, to basically seal the deal and push Marta out the door, he ends up slitting his own throat to ensure that she leaves. But the sequence where we get to see her actually following through with all his instructions, I thought was really cool too.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, because they don't show you that until a little ways into the movie, right? So the family's kind of been grieving and doing their thing, and you know, like the initial story, but as Marta confesses stuff to, I think it was when she was confessing stuff to Ransom, that's when you actually get to watch and experience everything, and that's when you get the full picture of what happened that night, and that's really interesting. You know, that just a good tidbit is that Walt yelled at Harlan to go back to bed because he got up in the middle of the night. Well, we find out at that point that Harlan was already dead.
Right.
And that was Marta. Like, I would have never guessed that. But that was cool to see that played out. That was done really well. And then, like, when Joni, I think was her name, she came up in the middle of the night.
To see what the big thud was.
Yes. And Harlan was like, oh, it's just the go board, go back to bed, Joni, love you, whatever, basically pushing her out of the door. Like, to see all of that actually played out, that it was like in the middle of a huge panic because he was like, oh my gosh, like I just got a lethal injection of morphine. Mm-hmm. And then there's a knock at the door. Go to bed, Joni, whatever. Like, that was interesting. It was just expertly done. I thought it was very cool, that whole sequence. And then too, I guess on that note, at the very end of the movie, when Benoit is finding from the toxicology report that, hey, Marta actually didn't kill him. Mm-hmm. Just maybe a testament to how close Marta and Benoit had become at that point. He gets almost emotional when he's reading it and says, no, you gave him the right dosage and you didn't think about it twice because you're just a good nurse. Mm-hmm. And he goes into more depth than that, but like you can tell that he's getting emotional. It's like, wow, that's really cool. Like, this really cements the fact that these characters have grown close together, and just adds depth to the story and even more heart, which I really appreciate. And then too, I guess the ending sequence there, after that's revealed that Ransom's like, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. He grabs a knife off the knife wheel and goes to kill Marta. And then it's actually one of those like
prop knives
that push in when you push down on the blade. Like, I don't know. The whole movie, very enjoyable.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
So I want you to put yourself in Marta's shoes.
Yep.
If you thought you had injected somebody with a lethal dose of morphine by accident.
Yep.
And they were telling you, basically, Harlan's telling you how you're going to get out of this and how you're going to, like all these different steps you have to follow. Would you do it, or would you call 911 and just explain what happened and go from there?
So what I would have done is, it depends on the sequence of events. So I can say, as somebody who was a medical professional, I've since left the field. But what I would have done is I would have called 911 and I would have had an ambulance on the way. Just because there's been too many times in the ER where I've seen things where it's like, okay, this goes against everything that we all know, mm-hmm. but it's still happening. So we're going to, we don't know why we've been dealt this hand and why it's happening this way, why it's working, but we're just going to roll with it. Mm-hmm. Like, that stuff does happen. And so, yes, I would very much say, like, okay, yes, Harlan, you're right that, like, it's going to take longer than an ambulance to get out here, as opposed to how long it's going to take the morphine to kill you. You're right. But, like, we can at least call 911. They might be able to have us give you something in the meantime to tie you over, just like there's any number of things that it's at least worth a shot. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Or at the very least, like, maybe they would have been able to get a helicopter out there in time if there's absolutely no hope, like,
right. Yeah.
Or maybe there's a police officer that's close by that has a reversal agent, like any number of things that you could have gone into. Mm-hmm. It's at least worth it. Now, if he had already taken a dagger and slit his own throat and everything and died, I guess, yes, at that point, maybe I would have been more inclined to just go through all the steps that he did. But I don't know. That's one of those hard things, because if he had just done that, like, I probably would have, I don't know that I would have committed to a lie in that regard. Like, I probably would have just grabbed the family and been like, look, this is what happened.
Right.
I made a grave mistake, and he chose this as my path.
Right.
But, I'm not doing that to you guys.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, because technically it is a suicide, but also, like, he would have died. But, yeah, anyways, I don't know. I guess neither is probably my answer.
Yeah.
But I would have been a lot more inclined if he was like, this is what you do, this is what you have to do it, now go do it, and then, like, took his own life. I would have been a lot more inclined to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. What about you?
I'm a chicken, so I would have called 911 and just told them everything and probably just let that be the end of it. I probably would have, like you said too, like if he did end up still taking his own life, I probably would have gotten the family and explained everything too, just because I couldn't, even if I had the guts to, follow all of his instructions and everything to save myself from, like going to prison or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think I could live with myself, and like keep that secret all
Right.
like to myself.
Yeah, and I guess too, there is a little bit of difference in our situations versus Marta's, where like there's this looming threat of if anything gets found out about you, your mother's getting deported, and like
Yeah.
that very much changes our outlook, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, but
Okay, I was just curious.
okay, cool. Well, that is all we have for you guys this week. Thank you for joining us. It's been a lot of fun diving deep into a mystery. I don't think we've ever covered a whodunit before.
No, I don't think so.
And this is certainly a really, really solid one. So if you're interested and you've never seen it, go check it out. Be warned, it is, a little coarse. It's, I believe, rated R.
What is?
Knives Out, the movie.
No, it's PG-13.
Is it? Well, there's definitely some language and it's, a little mature, so not necessarily recommending it for everybody, but it is a good movie. It's very well done, very engaging mystery movie. So we hope you guys enjoyed listening to this episode, and we hope that you'll come back next week because we are going to be talking about a sports movie. It's been a little while since we've done one, but as you know, anytime we have a sports movie that we cover on the podcast, we usually have a sports movie expert. He has been on 2 of our episodes, and he's going to be back next week. If you don't know who that is, go look through our catalog of episodes. Come back next week to find out because you're probably right. So we hope you guys have enjoyed listening. Come back next week to listen to Moneyball, a new movie to us. It is
not streaming on anything.
Yes, unfortunately not streaming anywhere, but it's a really solid movie. It's about baseball. Brad Pitt is the lead. Jonah Hill's in there. Chris Pratt is also in there. From everybody that's seen it, I've been told that it's a fantastic movie. So get excited for that. Watch it beforehand. Come back here next week as we welcome a guest into the studio to talk about it. We hope you guys have a great rest of your week and stay safe.
See you next week.
Bye.